Welcome to the Ave Podcast. I'm joined by friends of the podcast, DJ Chris Nice and DJ producer DJ Keo. How you guys doing today?
It's good, man.
Good.
Yes. Please, everybody go back and check out some of the pods that we've done from, which includes the 20th anniversary of Speaker Box and the Love Below. The R&B fantasy draft that we did a few years ago. There's a whole bunch, but every time we get together, it's always a good. I always look forward to this when we get together. It's like a musical powwow.
Yeah.
Oh, that was very fun. I'm gonna do another one later this year. So we'll stay tuned on that one. But yeah, man. No, I'm always a fan when we do these ones together. But
same here. So, I look forward to it.
Yeah. So towards the end of 2024, there was two great documentaries that came out. One of which I honestly didn't expect for us to even be talking about. I was looking forward to watching it, but halfway through, I was so floored by how good, how well it was done. I'm like, I have to talk about this, which is the Luther Vandross documentary, which is what we expected, and the Yacth Rock doc. Which I did not expect that to be as good as it was. That was
dope.
Wow.
That
was incredible. So
amazing.
So first and foremost, shout out to Jamie Foxx and Foxhole Productions and the Ringer Films with Bill Simmons, respectively, for putting out two great bodies of work. But in your eyes, for both of you guys, right? Like, and I'm not going to compare and ask which ones are better because that's whack. But in watching these two documentaries, I'm going to do this a little different because we're just going to mix them together, all the questions and the topics, instead of just having talk about one and then talk about the other. In watching both of these documentaries, what stuck out with you the most? What would you say?
Chris, do you want to go first?
For me,
it doesn't have to be one thing either.
Well, like a lot of documentaries, the information. Some things I didn't know, like the Luther Vandross, certain people that he wrote for and even produced for, I didn't know. So I was like, wait, what? That blew my mind. Like where I was like, the person's talented, but you don't know to what level until you see documentaries like this. That's why I love documentaries like this. So that kind of stuck out with me where I was like, that was always my guy. But whoa, like, after watching this, I put him up. Like I didn't think I could, but I found another leg to put him up.
Yeah.
Same. But after watching the documentary, I liked Luther, and I knew all his records, got big hits, or whatever. But I never honestly appreciated him because I think he's for a different time.
What?
So for me, right? I like Luther. But I'm like, I was like Jodeci and all the other groups there. That was my time.
You're more.
Yeah. I was more modern or whatever. So I was like, oh, Luther, he's got this is baby making songs. But that's not for me. That's for the girls. That's for my sister. Listen to Luther. I'm listening to these other people. But I appreciate Luther way more having seen this documentary. It's incredible. His work 100%. Ethic, this he was talking about his weight and how they're keeping people out of music industry because of weight and how they looked or whatever, and how this stuff affected him. And this guy, he's just like, I'm cooking from jump, making just bangers that to this day you hear these songs that you hear on the radio. Like, oh, that's Luther. You don't question it. You're like, I wonder who's singing right now. Instantly, that's Luther. Luther recorded that. That's Luther. There's no question. And they're memorable hits. They're not songs that you're like, I can't remember where the song came from. It's undeniable. Second, you first hear the Luther song, you're like, oh, that's a hit. Oh, that's bad. Yeah. You can't deny it.
They don't come around every day. Like people like that, when they're gone, I'm a believer that, when somebody says you'll never see that again.
Yeah,
I don't believe that. I always believe the universe sends more than one voice like that to us. The problem is they're not allowed to be exposed to mainstream. So sometimes because of that, this would be the last person. I believe there's an Al Green out there. I believe there's a Luther Vandross out there, voices like Luther Vandross. The problem is will they be found? And in this era especially, will they be allowed to be found?
Well,
You know
that's
what I
the
mean?
thing. Like these kind of artists are unique. Like they
Yeah.
don't. They're the one of one. They don't sound like anybody else. They're just doing
Mhm.
their thing. Like from both documentaries, that's the thing I took away from it is that
Yeah.
all of these things are unique, and then everybody copies them after, and it's not the same. It
Yeah.
just doesn't have
It's
the
not the same.
vibe, the sound. Just it
But
doesn't
yeah.
feel right. Like you know
But
what I'm saying?
that's
Like you get the emotional thing from it.
yeah, but that's the beauty about those times though.
Mhm.
Those times, like I lived those times. Like when I started DJing, it was like back in the 80s.
Mhm.
Your whole vision was to not sound like somebody.
Yeah.
So it's like whether you're a DJ or you're an
Mhm.
athlete, your main thing was like I started DJing because of my father and because of DJ Red Alert. I went to New
Mhm.
York one day, I heard DJ Red Alert, and I was like, yo, this is crazy. Like I gotta do this. You know, I was in high
Yeah.
school. I was in high school and I was like
Mhm.
this is amazing, you know. But at the same time, I was like, I don't want his style though.
Yeah.
But I think what happened now is people more look at it as, well, if it's working for Calvin and Keo, I'm
Mhm.
gonna copy it.
Yeah. Well,
Why put
just do
in all
that.
that? Yeah, why put in
Yeah.
all that work? I'll just copy what they're doing, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna take off. So when you see like the Luthers and even like the Yacht Rock, the beauty of it is these were times when nobody wanted somebody to sound like them, and
Yeah.
nobody wanted to sound like somebody else. So what I'm bringing
Mhm.
to the planet, love it or hate it, this is me, goddammit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I
I
love
miss
that.
those days, man.
I love that. Like, because you hear music and everything sounds like just a mush of
Yeah,
taupe, just
yeah,
blends, just, you know what I'm saying? Like, just
yeah,
a sandwich smashed together. It just sounds the same.
It's
No matter
all the
what
yeah.
same.
ingredients are in there, it just all sounds the same. Like, I was going through Apple Music the other day, and I was just trying to hear some pop music in the background. I was doing something, and like
Mhm.
every song was just the same thing. And it's like a version of something that was the previous thing, a version of another thing, it's the previous thing of that. And like I remember growing up, like in the 80s, whatever, and I used to listen to music and nothing sounded the same. Everything's
Yeah.
different. And like look at the yacht rock thing. Like first of all, I didn't even know what yacht rock was until recently. I did an event for a
Mhm.
company. It was a couple years ago, and they're like, "Hey, can you play some yacht rock?" I was like, "What the hell is that?" Like, and they're like, they start mentioning like, Christopher Cross, and like, it was like, oh, I didn't even know there's a term for it.
Yeah.
Like some sort of
And,
like
and it
someone
started
come
off as a
out of it.
joke. That term was
Yeah,
a joke. It was
And
just
so
it's a
part of a
joke. But
yeah.
like you look at that, and like these guys had to go around to all these other artists and give them some of their juice. Because
mhm.
that's the only way they can get it. They couldn't copy it. Like the only way they got that sound is, and we're talking everybody from Michael Jackson on was like, "Hey,
I
go get me
know.
these guys from Steely Dan. Get me these
That
guys
was
from whatever."
crazy.
That I
That
appreciate that more.
that was
Let's say
crazy.
these two documentaries, I appreciate you for putting me on because I knew about the Luther one because I saw commercials for that. CNN was blasting it all
Mhm.
day, but like the
Yeah.
yacht rock thing, I didn't know about. Like there's stuff I knew, like I knew Toto did part of the Michael Jackson thing. I knew that, but I didn't
Mhm.
know how deep it was. Mike
Yeah,
Yeah.
McDonald and Kenny Loggins,
yeah,
I didn't know all of that.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
like,
It was
yo,
nuts.
I know these songs. So that's the thing. When they're playing these songs, I was like, I know that. I know that. I used to play that on the
Yeah.
radio. Like I know that. But
But
like,
you didn't know the back end of
yeah,
it.
the end of the back end that made this
Mhm.
stuff so good.
I love it. I
And
gotta see
And
it
it was
again.
yeah,
I
I'm gonna
saw it
watch it
once.
again.
I I have a friend of mine. He said he watched it. I think he said 4 times already.
Mm-hmm.
The Yacht Rock.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yo. He goes, Chris, I watched it like 4 times. It's like I couldn't stop watching it. And I said,
Yeah.
you know what? I watched it once. I gotta go back and see it. Another buddy of mine
it's
said, so was that
oh no, I was gonna say it's one of the best documentaries that I've seen in a long time.
Easily.
hands down?
Like seriously, like
Hands
I
down.
was shocked. I was shocked
Yeah.
how good it was. Like I said, when I saw the commercials, I was like, on the trailers for it, I was like,
Mhm.
ooh, because I mean,
Yeah.
we're even though we're in the culture, that was still our culture. Like we
Mhm.
all know, we all love that music. It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially we grew up from the 80s and stuff. We're 80s big.
Yeah.
We all grew up on that. So when I saw the trailer for that, I was like, oh, okay, I want to see that. But like I said, halfway through, I was like, I'm like, holy shit, this is incredible.
No, but like, I thought it was funny. Like, as a producer, I used to go digging, looking for these types of songs, but I didn't know it was this genre for it. I just know, like, Bob Skaggs got some bad drums. I didn't know why he had bad drums. Like, his stuff was phenomenal. I didn't know it was good because of that, or the bass line was something from, you know, Toto or whatever. Like, I didn't know where it came from and why, but, you know, now it makes sense. Man. It makes sense now. After watching this, I'm like, yo, these guys they're all cooking across the board.
I think that was one of the surprising things was how that term became, that was from a web series that was like a comedy.
Yeah.
It was a joke, basically. It was like a comedy joke and a tribute to that era, which ended up turning into a term, which ended up even at one point turning into a Sirius XM station. At one point, it was there was a Yacht Rock channel. I don't know if it's still around, but I know at one point, like that was like, you go
on Apple Music, you go on Spotify, and they have a bunch of channels dedicated to this. There's lots of songs in there.
Yeah,
because I went right before we started the pod. I was on Wikipedia, and I was just looking at artists that fit in this genre. And man, I'm like thinking about it, like before, back in the day when I looked at it, like I don't know why I like this stuff, but I do. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, these are all artists that coincide with this Yacht Rock thing, you know. All the artists, like their stuff was soulful, it's jazz. There's a lot of white rockers in there, and you know, they're doing genre-breaking things that you shouldn't be doing, and that's what made it cool, because they're doing stuff they're not supposed to be doing, and stuff that their record label's like, nah, do that again. But they're able somehow to put it out, and they're like, just whatever, it's working, just do it. And like that's where we're at.
It was take off. Yeah.
Like
even the hard rock, even some of the hard rock groups had some shit where you're just like, yo. Yeah.
Like Dan, like I remember I used to do, when I found a song I like, because I remember the De La album, I found a song that I like, I would go, where'd this come from? So I'm looking it up. Anyway, this is before we had proper internet where we could go look for things. So I'm in a record store trying to find this Peg song from Steely Dan. I just went just crate digging and finding some other madness in there. I'm like, yo, like that just put De La put me on to a whole different genre of music. I didn't even know why.
And you know what's funny? Watching the doc, halfway through, I literally stopped and I downloaded 2 Steely Dan albums.
Yeah.
And I think I downloaded like something else. But I downloaded like 3 albums just off that alone, because I'm like enough respect to Steely Dan. I had no idea.
Fire. When I say like fire, they got fire in there.
But you know what I mean? I forgot, same thing. I didn't know some of the songs that was them. When I heard some of the songs, I was like, oh, that was Steely Dan? I'm like, I've always heard of them, but I didn't know their stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know what's the beauty?
Clue.
You know what's the beauty about that though? The power of music, like how music and smell like takes you back to a certain place. And so when I was watching it, I couldn't even go searching for music because it had me time traveling. So certain songs would come on, and some of the songs I haven't heard in a while, and so it would actually take me back to like my childhood, like up to you know, the apartment we lived in. So while I'm watching it, I'm seeing the apartment, and I'm just like, why? It was freaking me out. And one of my boys said he was emotional going through it. He said a few times I was like, yo, do I gotta pause this? Because it takes you back to a certain time, like your innocence. You're a child, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Yacht Rock for me, it's like it sent me in a portal back to like a little kid. You know, like I told you, Calvin, remember I was saying like getting ready for school. You know, we had a radio like on top of our fridge in the kitchen while we were getting ready for school. So all of a sudden it's like I'm seeing the fridge, I'm seeing the, you know, like the radio on top of the fridge, and it's like every song they would play would take me back. And then when they would show footage of like LA at a certain time, you're remembering like, you know, your neighborhood at that same time. You remember when some of these tracks were playing. You know, some of them were real young, but when they went into like the 80s, I was like, holy shit! Like you're actually seeing and remembering what you were doing in those times, just like the Luther one. When I watched
same thing.
And I was blessed to see Luther twice live in concert. So when I was watching it, it brought back those like the 2 concerts, because one thing that stuck out with me for his concert is if you didn't know better, you were listening to the record.
Yeah, that's the one thing I took away from the documentary. I'm like, Luther sounds the same singing live as he does on his record.
On the record,
it's no difference.
Trust me.
Like,
I
when I watched
there was no filters.
Yeah. It didn't like go down 20% because his audio didn't go
no
through
studio tricks, nothing. Yeah,
dude, it was clean.
That I remember, because anytime I used to go to concerts, well, I still do that. I kind of want to hear how good this artist is. You know, as long as it's not a track date, I'm like, okay, let me hear.
Yeah.
And I remember at that concert, Funny came on. I was like, holy shit. You know what I mean? And it just left you like, Jesus Christ, like I'm like, you know, maybe the ancestors blessed me and didn't give me this voice, because I would have been so corrupted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd be like, you, come here. You, don't run. Come here.
He'd be singing.
17 kids later. 17 kids later, you have to sell your masters because you're so broke from all the child support.
Oh my God, man. Like, to me, that wasn't right. I was like, yo, this guy is just special. And then I remember some of the songs he did. I remember at his concert, he did Creep. And when he did Creep, he was hitting every stairs he hit would light up. So he would go like creep, 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 creep. And he would go up and down the stairs, and the stairs would light up. And I remember sitting there going, I was just so amazed, because he was doing all that and his voice still never cracked, or you never heard like he's kind of out of breath. Like they trained so hard for that concert. It was like
his vocals were clean regardless what he was doing. No matter.
To me, Luther to me, and I think I've told you this before, Calvin. I found there was 2 artists that when they passed, in my opinion, the Black community didn't honor them enough. And I remember when they passed, I was like, okay, why aren't we talking about this? And I felt like almost like the Black community as a world should have stopped. And Luther Vandross is one of those. And I used to always say Barry White. I always felt like when Barry White passed, I was like, yo, nobody's talking about this shit. Do you guys realize who we just lost?
Yeah.
And that's how I felt about Luther. You know, I felt like we didn't. I mean, now it's nice to see this CNN thing and all that. But I remember at the time, I was like, it almost felt like, hey, you heard Luther pass, and the next day we were talking about something else.
Yeah, there was no memorial. Like it happened, but it wasn't like people stopped when Michael Jackson died. Like people were like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
People crying in the street. And then
people
Luther died. And it was like, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. People remember that, but like you're right. When Luther passed, like there wasn't that much fanfare, and I think the problem for Luther, and they said it in the documentary, is that he never, like, he crossed over, but he didn't. It was like towards the end of his career when he's on Jay, he finally got that crossover thing. But he didn't really. He was like he's the quote unquote black artist back then. You know what I'm saying? Especially, we were looking at both documentaries. Those guys doing the rock stuff where black people were cooking with them. Black people were rocking with all that stuff. I remember hearing that as a kid. All those songs,
we grew up to
that
that
as a kid. Yeah.
We grew up to all of that.
Luther's thing didn't get over into this other genre of people. They didn't get to it. Barely.
But you know what some of it is also? It's something I've been talking about for decades. And I always tell people, I love a beautiful woman just like the other guy. You know, like I mean, I love a beautiful body and whatnot, just like everybody else. But the entertainment industry is so wrong the way they market people. So if you know, and as long as you've been in the business, you know what I mean. If you're heavy set, they don't know what to do with you. And a lot of times in the black community, if you're heavy set, only one heavy set female can get through. So if a Faith Evans is popping, Kelly Price can't pop just yet. When Faith fades away, now you can put this one in. So because of how they look, they push them on us as something great. But it was
a factor for sure.
Yeah, but a lot of times the best artists you hear is those heavy set artists because the power they come with. So when I look at Luther, he suffered the same thing to me as like a Barry. They were hard to market as a sex symbol. So therefore, we didn't pay enough attention to them, not realizing that these guys were I mean, they were unicorns.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Barry's voice is crazy, man.
But even with Barry, there's that folklore that allegedly, I'll say allegedly, that he was such a powerhouse that this is why they brought Elton John into the North American mainstream to kind of offset what he was doing.
That's possible. That's very possible.
Allegedly,
records, man. Hey, yo, allegedly. You can't make it allegedly. Barry had records, man.
Yeah.
He had records.
No, Barry, of course, no, 100%.
To this day,
100%.
Play them, and everybody is like, I like that. I like this. There's got a good vibe to it.
Yeah, but then he had this whole love orchestra and stuff. Like,
oh my god, man, priceless.
It was crazy.
Priceless.
And the thing is, you're getting older too. You don't realize even the people that he produced for, like the Tom Brocks and all these different people. I was like, oh shoot, they were part of this. No idea. No idea. And he's working everything behind the scenes. But to your point, Chris, like you're right. Like I think it's Jill Scott when you say that. Because for her, it took her a while to get on because she was heavy set.
Yeah.
She was heavy set. Like the You Got Me song with the Roots, like that was her. It was her that was singing that. They switched it out for Erykah Badu. I mean, the song is still a classic.
That was cool. I have both versions.
Crazy it was.
I like Jill's better. All right,
but you know what though? but it's like everything, right? It's like you start off pure, and you start off with giving the world your like the God-given talent. Something from the universe. You end up giving the world, and then the business comes into it, and then now it subdues it because you're not sexy enough or you don't have a certain look. So they got to make you up to look a certain way. Or you got to do like a Jennifer Hudson, like drop all the weight. So, and sometimes I'm like, I wish. I mean, I know it's a dream because I don't see it ever happening. But sometimes I'm like, I wish we could just focus on the voice. Almost like close your eyes. I don't give a shit what the artist looks like. What are they touching your soul? You know what I mean?
But the thing with that on the Yacht Rock doc, they're talking about like MTV made the visuals so important. And it ruined all of these guys' career. Yeah. They couldn't handle it because all these guys were like, all the dudes were like, yo, I didn't come here for this. I'm not trying to be on screen. Play my song. I want to do all this dancing and tap dancing for this thing. Just play my song. And it's wild. Like it killed it because I think that style genre of music, because funky rock is basically what it is, and it could have gone on for years after. MTV ruined it, and visuals like you had Aretha Franklin, but you're right. There was record labels like one at a time. You get one big girl at a time. That's all you get. One big guy at a time, and like so you had these kind of artists that were doing great, and you don't really see what they look like until you get the album cover, and maybe it's just like the head and it looks like this big. That's all you get to see, or it's like a picture of some fruit or whatever. Like, you don't even know what they really look like until you go to a concert. But like that was fine for a longest time until MTV came out and everybody wanted to see what you look like. And I think that thing killed music as a whole. That MTV thing, that generation of we have to see what you look like. You got to make a video. It's got to be entertaining.
You got to be sexy.
You got to be sexy. You got to
entertain. I don't want to sleep with you. That's what it comes down to. If I don't want to sleep with you, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Like what is Christopher Cross doing in an F1 racing car? Like, what are we doing here?
I know.
She's playing guitar somewhere, like eating grapes. So that's you. We doing it like you had to jump out of your skin to do something that wasn't you, and it bothers me because that basically ruined all the good music we were getting. We were getting phenomenal music.
Even some of the black music too.
Yeah, but
even some of the black music too.
When we look at Yacht Rock, we kind of only focused on the Toto and all this other stuff. But Yacht Rock was wide, man. And I like that guy said that, I forgot who said it in the doc, but he's talking about the artists that, like, these are the only people I knew. They're all black people doing this Yacht Rock thing. And there was a lot of them. And it was great. Like the Al Jarreau.
I feel like Questlove said that, I think.
I think it's Questlove. Yeah. And that's for me. That's where I got the Yacht Rock, because that's what my dad listened to. He's listening to these kind of people. Because of De La, I found out the white side of the yacht rock, but like I wasn't going to. I was listening to the jazzy rocker black people, and that was fine.
See, for me, what blessed me with the yacht rock is, it's like, out of every negative, there's a positive. So the positive is, growing up where we grew up in Montreal, we had no black radio. So
stealing my point, Chris. Stealing my point.
Great minds think alike.
You just jacked me in the alleyway from my point. But go on.
But that turned out to be a blessing, because we grew up on all types of music.
Yeah, same.
The yacht rock, the rock and roll, all that. If I was raised in, let's say, like a New York City with 2 black radio stations, would I have been that deep into this stuff? I would have known it, but I was deep in it because we had no choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, St. Louis is the same way. St. Louis had all these rock stations. So if I listened to radio, that's what I was getting. And then occasionally you play like black music at midnight. You hear some late night stuff. Well, I'm in bed. I'm a kid, man. I was in bed. I got music because of my dad. My dad was playing stuff. That's how I got like this other side of music. But like culturally, from basically where you are, like you being blessed to be in New York or California, like you got is an abundance of riches as far as music goes and what's available to you. But like every other place, like Midwest, there's like it's nothing, man. we're just getting the straight cookie cutter classic rock stuff. Like I knew so much rock music back as a kid, like it's blowing my mind. But like I didn't get the yacht rock type music because they never played it. They never played any of that stuff. It was like
I think. No, sorry. I was gonna say. I think for me, like you literally forget, like how timeless some of these songs were, and obviously growing up, like you're not gonna know the technical aspects of what what the songwriting and all that stuff that's coming out. Yeah. Right, but I think, and this is my belief. This is me personally. I always believe that as of course we grew up in the '90s. I'm a hip hop head to the day I die, but I've always been like, I think if you ask me what decade or what era is the best era of music, I always say it's the 70s, because the R&B music in the 70s, like especially from the legends that was in their prime at the same time, putting out classic, like from Marvin Gaye to Stevie Wonder, the Isley Brothers to Al Green, Curtis Mayfield. Like you can go on the whole list. It's stupid. Like it's too long to mention. It's stupid. And a lot of them were putting out they were all putting out no hitters and triple doubles. You know what I mean? To use a sports analogy, but on top of that, the white music was because of, and especially looking at these docs, not knowing that they intertwined together during that period. A lot of that stuff that we grew up with, it was soulful. It was pretty soulful. So I'm like, so we kind of gravitated towards it anyway. So even when I was a kid, like I didn't know like certain groups, but it's like you gravitated to it because of the sound, which like it's just what you're used to listening to, right? So I think that was, and it's something that Prince Paul said too, that like you don't realize how much the influence stick out. You know what I mean? Like, because you're listening to it all the time. You didn't know any different. Like we grew up on all this stuff, not realizing this is who sang what and all this stuff. Like when I was a kid in elementary school, I used to listen to Kenny Loggins all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many times did This Is It pop on the radio? Like 1,000,001 times. Like how many times we we grew up on that stuff all the time, man. And I know Hall & Oates is not considered that, but like but like we grew up on all that stuff. So I think watching this was like, to our point, it was like straight nostalgia, like 1,000% nostalgia. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you
1,000% nostalgia.
I think a lot of these songs, like they're so soulful, like you remember what you were doing when you heard it. It wasn't cookie cutter.
Yes,
it sounded like other stuff on the radio. Like these guys are putting chords together that don't make any sense. And like when he's talking about is the handle, the piano chord book, and they're like, "How'd you do that?" And he's just like, "I'm just playing these chords. It's not a chord manual." Like it's like that. The idea that they're so creative that they're looking at this stuff from a different way from everybody else, and especially because the music business puts you through a meat grinder. People don't understand. Like you're at home listening to your songs, you don't know why it sounds the way it does. is because they made it sound that way. They bully everybody into sounding like this. And, people fight it as long as they can. And it's the people with the right connection or the right backing behind them that they get a pass. They're able to be free. But everybody else, that's why the music sounds like trash right now. Because it's a meat grinder to make it sound like this garbage.
Yep, follow the script, man.
And I remember I used to take beats with my brother, and we'd go down there and play beats for people, and they're like, "No, I don't want that. Play this on the radio." Like, why would we do that?
But it goes back. But it goes back to what we were saying earlier, though. It's if it worked for you, then I'm coming and I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm just that's what you created a lane, and I'm jumping in that lane, and I don't dare drift from that lane.
They expect you to do that copy cut thing to sound exactly like this other thing. And I'm like, the music that I used to listen to growing up was all different. Like none of these artists overlap with each other. You know what I'm saying? Like there's people I like, but like honestly, like Mobb Deep has nothing to do with De La Soul, but I listened to both of them same time.
Yes, same time.
Same time, man.
Same time, same
it was like his vibe or whatever, but like I did the music that, especially like the rock and jazz, whatever it was, there was no overlap. It did not. You can't pull anything from anything and be like, "Oh, this fits together." It was all.
You can listen to Biggie. You can listen to Tribe Called Quest.
Yes, same time. Same trip. I'm in the car. I got Biggie on. Pull Biggie out. Put Tribe in. Same time. It didn't matter. It didn't change anything about how I felt about the music.
Right.
And people don't realize how bad it is right now. Because it was bad in the 70s, man. It was bad in the 90s. In early 2000s, I'm selling beats, and I can only imagine what it's like today. I haven't been back to a record label in a bunch of years, but good Lord, man, it's got to be awful in there.
But I think now I think the execs are winning the war. I think that's the bigger part of it. They're winning the war now. You know what I mean? That's the problem.
It was a fight. Artists were like, I want to be different. I want to sound like the but both the Yacht Rock thing and we have two different groups, two different types of genres of music, both fighting the label to be free. Both of them. Just a whole group of people. They don't even overlap with each other. That's the crazy part. Yeah. Luther's people were in the Yacht Rock movie and vice versa. They had the same problem.
What's sad now though is it's now in a place where, like I was telling a buddy of mine today, I said, like Luther, like ballads now. I was watching an interview with Sean, the artist Sean from Boyz II Men, and they asked him like,
Sean, what's his name again?
I forgot his last name.
Yeah.
But they asked him, how would your songs do today? And he said, terrible. And they were surprised, like, oh, why do you say that? And he goes, because where the people's mind has been taken, ballads, I'll make love to you, songs like that, it won't work. Like, people don't want to think like that anymore. And that's when I was watching the Luther doc, that's how it felt. I felt like what you're watching right now, Chris, will never come back. If it comes back, it may come back a few generations from now, because people don't want, this touches your soul, and much worse, it makes you think. And I think where people are now, they don't want to, they got us in a place now where we're not supposed to think. And we're not supposed to put that loving energy in us. So when you see like a Luther, he represents a time where there was a love in the air, there was a vibration, and that calmed everything down. It's like Toronto, I remember when Toronto got Flow. And I've said this before to some people. When Toronto got Flow, and they put Flow on top of BLK, right?
That was on purpose, man.
Because that's the only way it would work. But
I know.
I remember thinking, the Quiet Storm being gone, I'm like, I don't think people understand what that's going to do to the city. You can't, and I've said this before, you can't have like a Jay-Z, a 50 Cent playing 11 o'clock at night. And I said, so you saw them removing that loving vibration, which people like Luther and, a lot of even some of the guys from the Yacht Rock,
it's Smokey the when the sing the quiet store, man.
That's gone. Like that's gone. And sometimes
grew up on that, man.
But the beauty is like my kids now, sometimes you catch them playing that type of music. Like you'll catch them playing the Al Greens and whatnot. And you start to realize, man, like the business side of it is fighting a vibration it's showing you. It's like the roots want to come out. But the business is holding it back. But the roots want to, because a lot of young people, they want this stuff. They want to hear the Roberta Flack and the but the industry has them like, no, it's going to make you think. It's going to make you have a loving vibration. That can't work right now. You know what I mean?
So
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Kate. Go ahead.
No, I was saying like we're at that point now where like the 90s is throwbacks to like these are ancient songs, whatever. And the 80s is this is how I used to view the 60s. This is how people view the 80s and 90s now. And I'm saying like that you do parties, people appreciate that music more than the current music, which is insane.
Yeah.
Like you rock a party with
and today's age group
90s,
too.
Today's age groups. You rock a party with 90s music, they're losing their minds. Versus you playing current music right now, it's just like all right, whatever. And then like you play Montel Jordan or something like that. Everyone's like, oh, okay, we're dancing now. Like it don't make any sense, but like people don't care about the new thing.
I think it's because no matter what they do, people still have souls.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And those songs from back then, it activates your soul. Like that's what it is. So no matter how hard they fight, once human beings have souls, the music from back in those days is gonna touch you, and they can't. They can only fight that for so long. You know what I mean?
I have not been to a party where Earth, Wind and Fire September couldn't burn the place down. I mean, is a Cool in the Gang September. It couldn't burn the place down. Like I haven't been anywhere that.
No, Earth, Wind and Fire. You're right. The first time.
Earth, Wind and Fire. Yeah. It's like I'm saying, like you can't. I've been anywhere that song wouldn't burn the place down. I don't know whether it was right now. It doesn't matter what age group you go today. You can go 20 years ago. Same thing. Exact like it came out yesterday, right? Like that's the thing.
But Keo, imagine going back to a space where not only September blows the place down, but they play like Love's Holiday by Earth, Wind and Fire, their ballad, and that shuts the place down.
Yeah,
that's what I miss. Where you could play slow music, you could play like back in the days. I used to play play 2 sets of slow music, 4 tracks each set. Think about that. You do that today, you're getting a bottle to your head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anywhere in the world.
So 8 tracks in one night, 8 slow joints.
We used to have slow jams at parties, man. Yo, we used to do slow jams. I bought slow jam records for that reason because you had to play them.
That's gone. That's gone. Unless it's a specialty party, that's gone. I never thought I would see the day where I could say, like, it's rare that I play slows, like almost never. You know what I mean? Like you're risking like never being hired again. And what I told somebody just today, we're having that topic. I said, when I play slow music, if I play a slow joint in an event today, and I see everybody in there is like, let's say 30s, 40s, 50s, I'll introduce it first. So I'll talk it in. I wouldn't dare just drop it in.
Yeah, people are what's happening right now.
And you watch the reaction. And a lot of times if you get away with one, you'll be damned if you get away with 2. By 2, the dance floor is like 30%.
And 2. Your limit is 2 songs. I can tell your limit is 2 songs.
Yeah.
And people are like, no. Okay, we're done here. Like, stop. It's just crazy.
Yeah,
like culturally,
it's like a nice. But I wanted to ask though too, like, is there a chance that love can make a comeback again in music? And I asked the question because too, like, love and the discussion of love and heartbreak
is what movies
drove. No, but I'm like, that's what I'm saying. It drove like some of the greatest songs that we've ever heard, much less these 2 movies. You know what I mean? Is there a space for it to have a major impact again? And not to say that it doesn't happen because there still is music, but I mean, I mean, love, and I guess that was part of the 70s, right? It drove a lot of the great Black music, and it's affecting the music now. It's not the same, right?
But
it's not the same. When your R&B singer is harder than some of your rappers, it's not great. And I love, you know what I mean? Like we love certain parts of today's music, but it's like it is affecting the music that way.
No, because you have rappers that want to be singers and singers that want to be rappers, and like the genres are all screwed up. But like the love part of music has to come back, because this sex stuff just straight, like without anything else, like you're getting a foreplay, we're just going right into it. Like that's not sustainable for the culture, man. You can't. It's just not. I don't know how long term you can do that for the culture. Like we have to have love in like just music that's moving you with like being thought provoking or whatever. We got to get back to that.
But you know what though?
Because love is part of the culture. Love is part of the culture.
I think what they created to rip off the artist or you know, to make it easier way to make money, to make streams of income, I think that could come back and bite them. And what I mean by that is social media right now and the whole streaming world has made it where the people could take back the power easily.
Yeah.
And I think to bring back, for love to make a comeback, the people have to take back the power, and they have to remove the power from the industry, because the executives, a lot of these people are empty people. They don't care about this shit. It's about generational wealth. The month, you know, your heart pumping when you hear a certain track, that means nothing to them. It's what could make us the most money. I think the only way this comes back is the people have to remove the executives, and that's the only way this comes back.
I read this article a couple years ago before the pandemic, and they're talking about how current music doesn't make any money. All of these labels, they're going bankrupt from current music, modern music. All the labels are getting their money from buying the licensing for all of these old artists. Your Christopher Crosses, you're like all of these people from the 70s, the 80s.
Buying their catalog.
They're buying their whole catalog. They spend $300 million on these catalogs. They're buying them, and then they're licensing them out to put them in movies, put them in all this other stuff. And that's where the money is for the record industry right now, keeping this thing afloat. All the current artists are making no money. $0. Like from watching the documentary, seeing Luther, who's the Black artist, selling out stadiums by himself. It's just Luther singing, selling out a whole stadium. You saw the crowd back there. That's a lot of people to hear Luther sing ballads.
Football stadiums,
That's a football. Like that's crazy. And where is that today? They don't have that. These guys are making no money. They're not making any money merchandising. I remember, it was like the licensing for the music, publishing, and the merchandising. You're gonna have to sell something. You got to sell T-shirts, tickets, something. You're selling something, and then you're selling your music. That's how they came with us with Elektra. They were like, you gotta come with these 3 things, and then we'll talk about release date for your album. Get these 3 things in order, and then we can go from there. And you got to sell something. These guys have nothing to sell. They're not selling T-shirts, they're selling posters. They're selling nothing. They got nothing to sell, and the music is trash because you can't sell the music. So what do you got? That's why everyone's focused on these genres. And
then the whole conversation with like streaming and stuff, and how much you get per stream,
which is like
basically like you're not even getting. I was gonna say the quote pennies on the dollar is like that's an overstatement.
Yeah,
that's an overstatement because you're not even getting pennies on the dollar.
They said Spotify
3,800 plays. It's 3,800. It's
3,800 plays.
Like, isn't it crazy? Isn't it crazy that we're like, if you step back and look at this, if this was a movie, you could step back and look at this and say, "Wow, what's the way I can put it? Us being creative actually killed something."
Yeah.
We advanced,
think about it,
but in our advancement, we killed something. We got away from, like, if we're talking music, we got away from vinyl. Vinyl was the best thing because, that, like, I know if I put out 500 copies, how much I'm getting on 500 copies. Nobody could fool me. If I press, 10,000, I know how much I'm getting. And then also with vinyl it's something a lot of people don't talk about, but it's some serious shit. When you think about vinyl, a lot of people don't realize that needle that you put on that vinyl, right? That needle, that diamond tip needle, it actually does something to your vibration. So when you remove the needle touching that what's it? It's like the coal that the records are made out of. When that touches it, it actually does something to your soul. So when they call it like soul music, it's an actual fact. It's
a vibration that's missing because it's
into your vibration. So so once we went to CDs and things like this and now MP3s, you don't realize we actually took something away from touching your soul. So our advancement actually ended up killing us as an artist. Like I hear if an artist came along right now and said to me, "What should I do to be to jump into this game right now?" I'd be like, "Man, I don't know what to tell you, because if you sign with a label, you're basically saying prostitute me." You know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna make money.
When I got out of it,
it's 360 deals or nothing.
Yeah, I was just about to say, when I got out of the music business, like they started doing the 360 deal. We got one of the last record deals before 360 came out. And when I heard what 360 was, I was like, oh no, this is not good. You take touring. If I was in a movie, you're gonna take that too? Like, that's crazy. For the rest of my career? Oh no.
It's prostitution, man. It's prostitution. So our advancement actually is killing us right now. It's a good thing. Like, everybody wants to advance. Like, you don't want to be stuck in one place. Everybody will say, but everything has to mature and has to go up a notch. But I'm like, man, but when you look at this, was it for the good, man? You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes even as a DJ, I remember as a kid, I used to like to walk past a speaker and you felt like you were having a heart attack. And sometimes you have to step away from the speaker, like, whoa,
it was bass.
Because the bass was just sometimes you can stand right next to a speaker. The most you have to do this because the highs. But the bass doesn't like want to like cave in your chest cavity. I'm like, do we realize what we lost? How we go back there?
Yeah.
I mean, the beauty is a lot of people are buying vinyl again, and you're seeing people like, having vinyl nights. Interesting. Like down here in Florida, that's big. Vinyl nights, like a lot of lounges and stuff do vinyl nights.
Yeah. There's a couple places up here doing that too. But like, there's so many record stores in the city now. Dude, we used to go to 2 record stores, and then it went up to 20, and it's like they're everywhere. They're all over the city. Everyone's selling records.
I think it's showing you that I think the souls, like the people's souls, is calling for something. I think that's what that's identifying. It's calling for something. It's there's something missing, and it's calling for it.
Yeah, vinyl sales disappeared, and is back up, and it matters now. That somebody prints everything in vinyl. It matters because you're losing on a ton of money. That's crazy. A bunch of people. I remember I was in Atlanta with my sister, and we were walking past this clothing store, and they're selling record players and vinyl in the clothing store in Atlanta. Wow. And I'm like, yo, that's crazy, yo. Because people don't have record players.
It's making a comeback. It's actually crazy. It's making a comeback. It's not going to be at the level where it was back in the day, but it is making a comeback. But to circle back on the doc for a second, what were your favorite moments of the documentary?
Oh wow!
Because even for me, I think there was many for both. There was many for both. But I think one of my favorite moments, especially watching the Luther doc, was, and I thought this was such an amazing compliment for his career. Because my favorite part is for that documentary, honestly, was his come up, was all his background singing and the writing and all that stuff that he was doing. Like that whole period, that was like my favorite part, just because you saw the journey to get to that point. But what I loved about it the most was all these artists that he was working for. They were all like,
they're like, yo, this guy's man. Like, you're coming
like,
up.
I don't care what you look like. You're next. Like, he was that much of a talent. For David Bowie to be like, you need to open up for me. I know you're singing background, but you need to open up for me. And he's like, why are you doing this? You're embarrassing me. He's like, no, I want you to get used to it because this is going to be you one day. Like, I'm like, yo, that is incredible.
That honestly, that was incredible. My favorite part of the documentary. That section with David Bowie, and he's talking about like seeing him sing the background vocals. He's just doing his thing. Like he's not thinking about it like that yet. And all these other major superstars are like, yo, this guy's the future. And we'll do whatever we have to do to help him get up there. But like, we have to shove him out the door because he's not going to do it on his own. He's comfortable. He's doing the commercials. Yeah. He's doing a bunch of like he said he got his when he said he bought his mama a house. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, this guy's living great. Like he's doing good right now. He's doing all these commercials, and then he's just helping out doing background vocals on these artists. And the artists are like, nah, man, you gotta get out of here. You gotta get on the road right now.
But that's the beauty about life, though. Sometimes in life, people see in you what you might have seen in you once, but life got in the way. Like because life got in the way, you don't see it anymore, dim to you, but people still see it. I think what was beautiful about that, I couldn't remember who did it, but I remember the story about somebody firing him. So when I watched it, and it was Roberta Flack.
Flack.
That to me was beautiful because that is that somebody seeing that light in you, that the world has sat on your chest. A guy like that, he's here and he's too big. All that stuff. So it suppresses what's actually there, but to you, it's suppressing it, which is dangerous.
Yeah.
But the beauty of that is you have to have good souls around you. Because if you don't have good souls around you, you're finished because they'll never tell you the light that they see. Yeah, when Luther was blessed, is he had good souls around him to tell him like get out of here. Yeah, basically.
No,
I'm firing you.
Luther, I think Luther is the most fortunate because he had really good people on his come up, and then all the way to superstardom. He had really good people around him, and that I think that saved his life. I don't think he would have survived all the challenges of music, like losing the Grammys 9 times in a row, all that stuff. I don't think he would have survived that had it not been for his friends being there. Like it's such a big deal, especially when you're that big of an artist, having a core group of people that you can trust that even understand what your struggle is. Like it's so hard.
I think for anything. I think that for anything.
Yeah. And same thing like an athlete. There's very few people that understand what your life is like and what you're really going through on the field and off the field. And so, like, you need that good core group of people to be like, yeah, don't worry about it, or you'll get them next time. Like, just something to get you out of that funk. And like I think that was a huge thing for him, having those people there. Because like even watching them talk about him after the fact of how many years after when they did this interview, how they still view him the same way.
You can see
no jealousy and no like, oh man, this Luther did this thing wrong to me and whatever.
They protect him.
It's all protective. Yeah. That's I think it was one of my favorite things about the doc of how people viewed him. Everybody, superstars to backup singers with him, they all viewed him the same way as a really good person, and they wanted this person to win. And that's incredible. Counts, man. Yeah,
character counts, especially when you got good people around you. Like he was blessed to have like good people around him, and he seemed like a pleasant soul also.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it all meshed. It all meshed. I know it's funny. I remember when I was in high school, somebody pulled me aside. This guy Jerome. So if Jerome, if you ever get wind of this, he's back in Montreal. He was one of the older ball players. And I remember we were hanging at his house one day, and he pulled me aside and he said, a bunch of us was there. We're all like 15, you know, whatever. And he pulled me aside. And I remember he said, "You don't belong here." And I remember it threw me off, like, but he was looking at me and how I move and my whole energy. And he was like, "You don't belong here." But at the moment when he told me that, I knew that. But to tell the average person that, it'd be like, shut up, you're crazy, you know what I mean? But, but I never forgot that decades later, because that's somebody seeing in you what you see in you. But you may not, you know, you may forget because of what's going on in your life. When I watched Luther, I thought of Jerome. You know, I was wondering, man, I wonder what that brother's up to. You know what I mean? Because you need people like that around you, and you need people like that around you that aren't afraid to tell you some people they'll never tell you. They see it, but they'll never tell you. Mm-hmm. I like when people are like that. Like I've told people that. I've like even when I was playing ball, I've walked up to guys after we finished playing and stuff and go like when I was in Canada, I'd be like, "Why are you in Canada?" You know, they would look at me sometimes like confused. And I'd be like, "You don't belong here. Like you're not a Canadian ball player. You gotta like get your ass in the States. And if you came from the States, you need to go back." I mean? Sometimes people need that because they fall off a little, and that could spark them. To me, that's Luther Vandross. I loved it, loved it, man. I'm gonna have to watch that again, man.
Yeah, it's inspirational to see like everybody's like, we have to get this guy to the next level. We have to do everything to get him there. Like that's so rare that you see it, because
that's amazing.
It's like backstabbing.
It's amazing.
And people trying to fight to make sure you don't make it. And everybody there was like, we have to make him get there. I love that, man.
How many stories have you seen? I'm sure there's so many stories on the cutting room floor of that backup singer that was so incredible. That artist, like, he's fired or she's fired.
Yeah.
I'm not jiving with that person because they're seeing like, oh, this is a threat to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even both docs had that too, because even I think there was a part where Christopher Cross was opening up for, I forgot, was it Bonnie Raitt or something? And they said she was like, man, I should be opening up for you. You know what I mean? While she had him on tour. And like, you know what I mean? And then like Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks is like, hey, anytime you need somebody to sing for you, like, I'll do it. Or like she said that to Kenny Loggins. And I'm like,
that's no ego.
I love that stuff. Because I
love it, man. Yeah. Both of these docs, I felt they're sad, but it felt good. Like, you know, the bulk of it was a feel good thing that reminded you about like how great the stuff was that we had. And like it was everywhere. Like I didn't have to go look for it. It fell into my lap. It's just here. Like that's the thing. Like we had so much greatness. Like now there's great artists, but you got to find them. They're really hard to find. They got like 2 spins on Spotify. Yeah. Nobody knows who they are. But like it was just on the radio. Like it's nothing. You have to go and do any research.
So
we had to go.
We were spoiled. We were definitely spoiled.
Well, the one thing I could say though is I know just speaking for myself, I definitely never took it for granted. Like when my father would bring home certain songs, and when I got my own, like back in the the 80s and 90s and stuff, I was that guy that used to just sit back and just play songs. Just sit home and take it in and listen to the words and certain instruments. Like I know I didn't take it for granted. What I could say is I didn't think it would come to an end like this.
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I told you I knew one day the train would stop. I didn't see it coming to this. I really didn't. I thought my kids are gonna go through what I went through. My kids are gonna hear a song that's gonna make their heart skip a beat. My kids are gonna go through where if there were certain songs I used to call there were certain ballads that you dance with a chick to, and there were certain ballads that it was not made to be danced to.
Yeah, when you're just feeling something. It's hitting your soul right now.
Whether like you had to sit on a couch. I used to call those ballads couch ballads. You had to sit down. like for example, in the documentary when he did Anyone Who Has a Heart.
Yeah.
Anyone Who Has a Heart for me is a song I could never dance to somebody with. It was a song even when it just came out. I had to sit down and like, oh my God. I mean, that shit is like a cappella almost. And
you just pouring your soul out there.
Like, and if you broke off with somebody,
you play that. You play that. You put the headphones on.
But the funny thing is, back in those days, sometimes we used to punish ourselves. You'd break off with somebody and you're sitting there with your headphones on with Luther Vandross playing, and you're like, were we crazy?
Yeah, no, you weren't crazy. That was what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to listen to Luther.
Yeah,
you're supposed to feel something.
Yeah. But some of those tracks, they were so deep. There's a song that they played in the documentary, and man, when I heard it, it almost got me emotional because I was almost in New York again at my aunt's house, and that's "Give Me a Reason to Want You Back."
Yeah.
Give me a reason to want you back. I was like, whoa. When I heard it, I was in the Bronx, New York. I saw my aunt's place, and I was like, oh my God. I think I actually had to pause the video. I paused it for a minute. I had to like whoa.
Yeah, I remember.
You know, like the song went straight to my chest. I was like, man, like, you know, like you cherish those moments like that bad where it's like, whoa, I have to pause this. Like take a breath and then okay, hit it again. You know what I mean? Like I miss those days. Like, and I'll say it again. I'll say it till the cows come home. Nobody can convince me those artists aren't out there. They're in the church.
No, they're there.
They're somewhere. The universe is sending them. But it's just
they're 100% there. You just can't find them like you used to.
That's the thing. There's people who could sing like that.
Side note: a Luther Vandross that takes me back to the Bronx is the one he did with Gregory Hines.
Oh
yeah!
I don't know why. I remember being in New York when that song came out.
Yeah.
No. You're thinking Michael McDonald.
Yacht Rock. Yeah.
But I mean that song's sick too. Sweet Freedom is nasty too. But it was Luther and Gregory Hines. I'm losing. I don't know why. I can't remember the name of the song. But that song is incredible. But I remember that when I was a kid. I remember like sitting in the living room with our family in the Bronx and being like, and everybody's playing it over and over again. I'm like, I didn't know Gregory Hines could sing. Like, this is crazy.
That's the problem watching these two movies together. They start blurring together.
which is a good thing. It tells you
this is a good thing. But my memory's not what it used to be, right?
Who's this nowadays?
Listen, none of us are. That's why we all wearing glasses, King. This is why we all wearing glasses, King.
That is so true.
But some of my other favorite moments in this though, like between the two docs, the Michael McDonald.
There's nothing better than love.
Yes, yeah.
Please,
nothing better than love.
Yeah,
classic.
Yeah,
phenomenal.
That song's sick to me. But yeah, no. But
I know what song you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
You know what song I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But the Kenny Loggins Michael McDonald partnership, like that was probably one of my other favorite parts in the song too. Like the Doobie Brothers, What a Fool Believes. I mean, look, man, like when we were growing up, and I mean, we're gonna talk about Michael McDonald in a moment, but
Michael's a G, man.
Like,
I don't care.
That song to me it's like it is. When I say it's super timeless. That's I don't care what the technology is, the instruments is. That hits you in your soul when you hear that. I don't know how you listen to that song and not be like, yo, this song is just straight sick. You know what I mean? Like we all grew up on it, of course. But same thing. Even before when I saw the trailer for this doc, and I was listening to something and they played the Heart to Heart, the Kenny Loggins, and I remember right away I went right back to elementary school. I'm like, I haven't heard this song in like 30-something years. Holy cow. This song, I'm like,
there's a lot of stuff I've heard in a long time for me.
What was dope about it too, what I appreciated too, was the appearance of the presence of Thundercat throughout that documentary. Because when you listen to his stuff, I said, oh my gosh, I never realized the correlation. Like when you hear his stuff, you're like, oh, I get it. I get the bridge now. Yeah, because the stuff. Remember me? You always talk about him. I'm like, yo, his stuff is funky. Like I always liked Thundercat stuff. And now I'm like, oh, I get the bridge. I get it.
No, but I found Thundercat because somebody had a Instagram skit. There's like a funny skit with him. They're playing one of the songs on there. I was like, yo, who the hell is this? And I was like, oh, it's Thundercat. And I went and got his album, but I'm like. That's how I found them. The same way the Yacht Rock thing was a joke, and they found these artists like that. It's the same thing. I never knew who Thundercat was before, and then now I know who he is, and I like his music. But like, I would have never found him if it wasn't for that thing. That seeing that Instagram skit and the guy was playing that song, I would have never seen it if it wasn't for that. Like it's like we have so much music and so much art. It's so spread. It's the Wild West. Everything's spread out. And you're never going to discover anyway. There's no way for you to find it. Like we're not, there's no thing correlating everybody, funneling it down to, hey, come here at 8:00 p.m. I'm going to play the best new songs out of this thing. Like if you're not in the right place at the right time, you're never going to find it. It's impossible at this point. It's too much music.
What Calvin was talking about, like going back, like we were saying, how certain tracks would bring you back.
Yeah.
Going back to the yacht to the yacht rock. As you were saying that, Calvin, a song popped in my head, and even as a kid, as a teenager, I used to love the intro of it. And it was Ricky Don't Lose That Number. Remember that track? Because I still loved it. You remember it?
That's Steely Dan, right?
Yeah, the intro of that. Dan? I think it's Steely Dan.
Is it?
But the intro always did something to me. It was just so nice, and just there was a quiet tone to it. It made you think, and the song to me it just did something to me. So when I was watching the doc and tracks like that came on, you actually felt it, you know, like you felt it in your soul. I really got to go back and watch it a second time.
I got to go back and listen to this music again, man. Yeah. That's what it really is. I got to go back. But you know what? I think it'll be hard for me because like a lot of stuff was happening as a kid when all the songs were on. So I'm going to remember vividly what was going on when I was a kid. So, you got emotional stuff's going to be there.
You know what's cool? The wife sat down and she watched it with me. I kid you not. She sang every friggin' song. And it blew my mind. She knew I'd say like 95% of the songs at least that was on Yacht Rock. She was like, oh my God. And she would sing with them. And I'm like, how the f do you know this shit? You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm the DJ.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, some of the tracks I know, but so much years have passed. Some of the lyrics you can't forget. She was
but some of the stuff you ever heard since the 80s or whatever, or 90s. Yeah. Like, it's been a minute.
But that's to tell you how powerful those tracks are. Yeah. That somebody could actually like still be spitting them verse for verse with the artist while watching the doc.
Yeah.
You know, like that to me is powerful. That's how much it's sank in your heart. You know what I mean? I can still remember it.
I like that the Yacht Rock had a moment there talking about the hip hop influence on it. Because like that's where I really got into it. Because of rap music. It wasn't, I was listening to it, but it was like, that's something in the background. I never cared to go get the album until when rappers started using it. Like that's when it kind of it touched. Like you say, like you could feel it then. And I was like, who the hell is Steely Dan? I need to get more of their music. Like I need to find out where all this stuff come from. Like Toto. I knew Toto before, but I didn't really care. But like seeing the doc, I'm like, I can go back to all these albums.
Again, you didn't know they were working on everybody's stuff.
Yeah. I appreciate it a lot more.
We didn't know they were working on everybody's stuff like that. But no, I was just saying that the Thundercat part was funny because I'm like, again, he's from LA, right? So like that transition from the LA sound from that 70s coming back and making its full circle now to the point where he's working or did at least a song or two with both Kenny Loggins and Michael McDonald. I'm like, holy cow. But like I said, when he was on there, I'm like, wow, that's cool. He's on there. And then I started thinking about his music. I'm like, holy cow, that bridge, that makes perfect sense. Because when you hear his music, you're like, you can see the influence. It makes perfect sense.
That funk vibe, but it's like jazzy funk or whatever.
Yeah, and what I want to ask too is actually, where's the question? Let me pull it up here. The impact of Never Too Much. I want to do like where everybody likes to ask. Just talk about the impact. Talk about the impact.
the video, or the song, the doc, or the song?
The song.
No, the song. Because I mean that was the focus at one point in the doc too.
You know what's funny? I'll be honest with you.
Oh boy, here we go.
When the song came out, I'm a Luther guy, but when the song came out, I liked it, but I wasn't one of the guys that was going crazy over it.
Nah, I was going crazy over that song. I was like, yo, this is funky.
Yeah, I liked it. I was like, this is nice, but I wasn't like, oh my God, like what is this? I was like, yo, this is nice, and because it's Luther, of course, I was like, this is nice. But it took a while to I mean, now, of course, I'd never give that record up. But when I just got it, I was like, this is nice. This is nice. But I think for me, because I was so into Luther's ballads, you understand what I mean? Because of that, this up-tempo didn't grab me like his ballads did right away. Like his ballads, like right out the gate, I was like, oh my God. Like, oh my, you know what I mean? So when I heard him doing this, I was like, okay, Luther's doing like an up tempo, again, like when he was with Change and all that, I was like, nice.
It's like, that's okay. Like,
Yeah,
I know. I like the up tempo stuff from Luther, man.
No, but I like the Change up tempo stuff from Luther.
Yeah.
Like when Luther was with Change, like that stuff to me is phenomenal. But when he did Never Too Much, like I said, it took a while before I just found it like
so that was his first solo hit, right? That was the first one that put him on the map.
First song.
Yeah. I don't know. I liked it. When I heard it on the radio, I was like, yo, this is great. Like I didn't see the thing. I never really focused on Luther like that. Like I know it's blasphemy to say, but like
blasphemy. Shame on you.
I know. Shame on me. My father failed me and all that stuff. But
Black card's looking shaky right now. Black card's looking shaky.
Getting my scissors.
I like the fast Luther songs versus the slow stuff. I'll be honest. I was a kid, man, and I wasn't worried about love making songs back then. I was like, yo, I want to dance, man.
That's the era. That's true.
that was my era. I was like, I want to dance.
I could never say that to you. No way in 1,000 years. I could never say that. I like this fast stuff over slow stuff.
No, but at the time when this stuff was coming out in the 80s and 90s,
100%.
I like the fast songs better. Now, as an adult, I'm like, oh, I need these slow jams. These slow jams are useful. But as a kid, growing up, the fast, fun songs, I was all about that. The Michael Jackson stuff, I was all about all this stuff that was like fun. It's got drum beats on it, and it's
but it depends on the art. But you know what? It depends on the artist. Like, even though I was into the fast stuff, because I love my ballads too. Like I was just telling somebody the other day, I said, when people ask me if you were to give up all your records right now, like your whole collection, what genre would you hold on to? And people freak out when I tell them my slow music. I say my slow music from the 70s and 80s, and they go, "What?" They're thinking hip hop, this and that. I said, if I had to save one genre, it'd be my slows. So there's certain people. If I fell in love with your whole energy because of the ballads, when you start to do up tempo stuff, I kind of
it's like this is not you. From your perspective, it's not you. The first song I heard from Luther was Never Too Much. Like, that's the first song I heard. I didn't hear anything else before that. And then I was like, oh, there's another. He was in a group. Okay, well that's interesting. And it's all this stuff. Like that was the very first song I heard from him. It was on the radio. And I was like, my sister was playing it. And I was like, I like this. This is fun. So that's my cultural thing for that aspect of it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't think I really appreciated because that's grown up music. That's how I looked at it. Like I'm in elementary school still. I'm like, this is grown up music. Where's the fun party stuff? You know what I'm saying? Like that's how I looked at it.
When you hear songs like that, especially, and then that and like Let's Have a Party, because every time I hear that song, I always think of House Party. Like I can never. As soon as I hear that song on the TV, I know House Party's about to play. But those songs in particular, especially Never Too Much, it kind of reminds you of the impact of how much impact that he had on the culture. You know what I mean? To the point that the culture like really went out of their way. We're talking his friends and stuff and people in the industry, but the culture really protected Luther. You know what I mean? Through weight gain, through sexual preference, through whatever it was. We protected him like no other. Like you were not allowed to say nothing bad about Luther. But songs like that kind of remind me of how important he was to the culture, man. That like it's missed, but like he's still such an important part of the culture.
Yeah, imagine Luther today.
Like that to me is amazing.
Yeah, I say imagine Luther today with Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and all the stuff going back and forth. I don't know how people survive, man. Like there's a level of fame that I want to have, and just want to be famous enough that I can say something rude and it's not gonna ruin my life and my grandkids' life or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
but you don't want paparazzi following you.
Yeah, exactly. There's a level. I want to just below that level.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
there's got to be a cutoff point.
Yeah. But Luther, what he had to deal with, like that's back in the 80s and 90s, he's dealing with this about sexuality and whatever, and just losing weight and gaining weight. They didn't get into a Zippo and all the other stuff they're doing right now, and all these other drugs and all the stuff.
No, they would have forced Ozempic on him for sure.
Yeah. It would be crazy. Absolutely crazy.
there was a part in the doc too where he was talking about especially it was right before he came out with Never Too Much, or before he worked on that demo, and they were talking. I think he was talking with Marcus Miller, who was another legendary producer.
Yeah.
And he's done so much for the culture that people don't know about. It's mind-boggling.
It's an understatement.
But what? Yeah. But what to me was crazy is like they're like, yo, you're making so much money doing these commercials and jingles and writing for people and all this stuff. And he was like, I got this sound in my head that I need to get out. You know what I mean? So like this sounds different from anything that was out during the time, like talking about Never Too Much. Like it sounded so much, especially because there was like disco and all that stuff was going on, or the end of disco and all that. And that song sounded so different. I mean, it's like that's a song that could even come out now and do damage. Like it's so timeless. But the point is like I like that conversation of him saying that I need to get that sound out of my head. Like, and he needs to execute and get out of his head. It should be inspiring for so many artists and creatives all over when you hear something like that. Because think of how much people that are living life with like ideas and different things that they may want to do or see themselves at, and they could just never get it out of their head or are not even willing to try to get out of their head. They don't have the confidence to try to get out of their head. And I mean, to me, like looking at that was like I felt that because I'm like, there's so much people out there. And I think the three of us we can speak for ourselves, but the three of us have at least tried or are still continuing to do things that are like kind of getting that sound out of our heads. You know what I mean? And I think it would have been such a disservice to the world for him not to get that talent out of his head. And I think a lot of people, stars included, which is so unique, recognize that, no, this guy needs to get whatever's going on between those ears, he needs to get this out. Because it's like coming out of his pores. Like we can see it. Like we need to help him get to that point. But like they said, there's so much people living life right now that can't quote unquote get that sound out of their head and don't want to try to get out of it because they're too scared. And that to me was inspiring. Like I looked that back a little bit today, and I was like I felt that and that's what made him make Never Too Much. You know what I mean? And then that's after that. His world was never the same after that. He got his sound out. Regardless of how he passed and everything, he got his sound out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a beautiful story.
I was saying like that's the thing that I liked about the two documentaries. That is like it's uplifting and it's a thing of triumph over adversity. All of those both documentaries, all of the artists that are in there had to fight to go get their thing out there, and they had to go through all this adversity, whatever, and they got to make music the way they wanted to make music. And that to me, that was my favorite thing out of both movies. That was my one favorite thing about it, that these guys got to make music the way they wanted, and there was nobody that stopped.
It was the same moral compass.
Yeah.
Same moral. They wove that same tapestry like throughout both. That was the same thread through both of them. You're right.
Yeah.
But I call it. I used to call that the empty in your bucket syndrome. I used to always say one of the worst things in life, because I've been there as like a ball player, ex-ball player, all that, where you didn't do what you wanted to do, and it haunts you for years and years because you didn't empty the bucket. And I remember back in the days, if I was walking down the street, I would think of a mix. I would think of a song. I could just be walking down the street going somewhere. And I would think of a song, and then automatically a song would jump in my head that would mix in with that one. Next thing you know, I'm walking down the street. I got like 10 songs in my head, and I didn't used to write it down. And then that weekend, whatever club I was playing at the time, I would actually do it at the club, and you watch the crowd go off, but they have no idea that you had that in your mind. For like the last 5-6 days, and if you didn't empty it on them, you would just feel all fucked up. It's kind of the same thing. It's like you had to, you don't know if they're gonna boo you, whatever, but there's something that you have, and you just have to get it out. And in life, I think a lot of people, like you said, Calvin, I agree. A lot of people in life are living that life where there's something calling you, but you're not. You're either afraid of what's around the corner. I call it being afraid of the darkness. So you're afraid to walk into the darkness, which most people are. So you'll not empty your bucket because of the fear of the what if. But when your bucket needs emptying, you don't give a shit about the what if. You fall flat on your face, you look like a clown. So what? Because what used to get me over that is you have to look at the average human being will never take a chance. So when you take a chance and you bump your toe, look at it as, but Joe Blow over there who's ripping me and calling me a clown, I bet you he did nothing with his life. You know what I mean? So going back to the Luther thing, that's basically like a mirror to a lot of people's life. Take the chance and look at what happened. Look what happened to that song.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Like take the chance, man. You just never know.
It's inspiring.
Yeah, you just never know. Man. All these greats that we're talking about, like from Yacht Rock to like Luther to the Barry Whites of the world, all these are people who emptied their bucket. Imagine if these people imagine if the world sat on their chests like long enough that it's stifled their creative juices, which a lot of people out there went through that. But imagine what the world would be like without the Luthers, the Barrys, the Steely Dan, the OJs, the Al Greens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So to me, it's like we're blessed because these people never let the outside noise and the executives stifle like who they are, and we're still blessed with it to this day.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna make me go and watch this tonight.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's a shame. I'm doing a shameless plug for two docs. The impact of Michael McDonald. You guys discuss.
Huge. It was huge, man. Because like I'm saying, like musically for me, I was listening to his music long before I even knew what it was. And like my dad used to play this stuff, and he didn't think about it like that. He's just like, I like this guy. I don't think my dad even knew that guy was white. He was like, this dude's funky. I like this.
I had no idea. I had no idea until I was telling the wife this the other day. I think until I saw a video. Was it him and Patti LaBelle, the song back in the day?
Yeah. It was a couple years.
On My Own.
It was a bunch of years.
On My Own. That was the first time when I saw that, and I was like,
"You're like, wait a minute,
he's white."
I was like, I heard
no clue.
That voice, because it's unique. Everybody, you hear his voice, you're like, Michael. That's it. It can't be anybody else. It's Luther. It can't be
similar to Luther in much different ways, but similar in that aspect. As soon as you hear his voice, 0.2 seconds, you're like, "Oh, that's Michael McDonald."
Yeah. And so like, the amount of people he played for and did writing for. Are saying backup on is ridiculous. That you look ridiculous. At how
similar story
his
to
coaching
Luther.
tree. Yeah, his coaching tree is insane of all the people he influenced. And I love is Warren G that brought it to all the next generation. And they're like, yo, who's this guy? Why he's white? Like he was like, what?
Yeah.
I love that. It's one of my favorite things about that thing, that the documentary. A lot of people had no idea. And then once they saw it, it wasn't like okay, whatever. It's like, okay, all right, yeah. This is great. I like it. What else he got? Like it wasn't, it didn't take away from it. It was like I got discounted now. He's got an asterisk because he's some white guy, whatever. You look at his body of work and all the stuff he did, and you're like, oh, this guy's the truth. Flat out. Like, no question. You got to put him in the Hall of Fame somewhere. And
his music made you think.
Yes. His writing and stuff. Yeah. 100%.
Smooth, but a lot of times you're listening to the lyrics and you're like, holy shit, like, man, these guys, like, they're telling me a story. Like, you know what I mean? Like with the Warren G one, the regulator, like, I keep forgetting, like listen to that song. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and the funny thing is the beauty of it, and I guess again it goes back to like growing up without black radio. A lot of times that song pops in my head, and the Warren G one, I barely like that barely pops in my head, and it's because that song to me was always so unique, and like a lot of his tracks, and it always made you think. Like you listen to the words and you ride along with them. You know what I mean? Just smooth, man.
I agree. I love that, man. I love that they got their influence from all these jazz people and black culture,
the brothers,
black artists,
black culture.
Yeah,
that's basically the black culture. They're like, yo,
and they paid homage. They said it too in the doc. That's what I love.
Yeah. No, it's the other reason why I respect those artists so much is because they were like, the good stuff is over here, and we need to bring this to our people. They're like Moses, like, we got to get this great stuff over here and bring it to our people, but we're not going to take credit for it. We're going to pay our respects and let everybody know this is what it was. And I think Bellcat was talking about how they had that concert, and there's all these people at this concert at one time that there's no overlap. They're all funky. They're all doing their same thing. And that concert, to be able to go to that concert and see that all in one show is crazy. Like, that's insane. Like, for people who ever watched the documentary, go look it up. There's part of the documentary they're talking about this show. The show is insane. I would pay all kinds of money to see that show live. I know you guys too would.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Can you imagine, man? Can you imagine? My gosh, man.
Insanity.
Imagine what your energy would be like leaving a place like that.
Bro, I'd be tired. Like a wheelchair, you get out of there.
But like I said, just the parallel between him and Luther was interesting, and it's only something I realized tonight because of like the backup singing, the vocals, the song arrangements.
They did the same thing. They did all the same thing.
Yeah, I'm like I'm like yo, they had similar parallels. I never realized that honestly until maybe a couple hours before we recorded this. I'm like, I didn't realize they were kind of living similar lives. Like there was a point Michael McDonald was everywhere. He sang on everything.
Yeah.
You can hear that voice in the background.
The skit about it. Yeah, like I remember the skit.
I forgot about that skit.
I remember that skit because I used to watch SCTV in America, and I was like, "Yo, who the hell is this guy? Why is this funny?" Because they had the laugh track. And it was like, "Why is this funny?" I didn't understand it, and then I was like, "Oh," and then looking back at it now, I was like, "Oh, that makes so much sense. That's accurate. Yeah. That's 100% accurate. This guy was flying everywhere to record and just wait, I'm done. All right, let me get out of here. I got another session. Like, that's crazy.
Good old days, man.
What makes me laugh is the backstories for some of these songs. Like some of these songs were made when guys are high. Like that song with that Christopher Cross is talking about him and Michael McDonald.
Yeah,
they were driving to Houston. He was on acid. I'm like, what?
Wow.
He's like a weed dealer on acid. Like, oh yeah, I made this song when we were driving.
Hearing this guy was a weed dealer even before that, I cracked up. I stopped the documentary and I laughed. I was like, yo, this guy was selling drugs, so you had to buy some CDs. They had to buy the speakers and some tape players.
You would never think that those worlds would collide.
Right?
Yeah, you never think those worlds would collide together.
Yo.
Everybody has a story, man. You know?
Right? Right.
Like everybody's got a backstory.
No, but the Michael McDonald phenomenon was I mean, it was impactful. Like I said, I grew up listening to him, not knowing he was white. I thought he was one of those white artists that you thought was black. I did not know.
Yeah,
I did not know. The one you were referring to earlier, the Running Scared, the Sweet Freedom, same thing.
Yeah.
I used to hear the song and be like, yo, who is singing this?
Yeah.
And then you see the video, you're like, that's him again. What the hell's going on? Who is this guy? You know?
Yeah.
Because I came up in those times.
It was incredible.
Yeah, I had it a little different because I knew he was white because back in those times. But it was certain white guys, you gave them a pass, the cool pass.
Yeah.
And he was one of those guys. You know what I mean?
He counts.
Yeah.
I like that. He's comfortable with it. He recognizes.
He's always invited to the cookout.
Yeah.
He's always invited to the cookout.
Yeah. You may not ask him to bring a meal. You want him to come with his hands free, but he's invited.
Don't put raisins in nothing, bro. But you can come.
No.
You can come.
No. but he knows what oxtail is. He knows what oxtail is.
Absolutely.
As long as he doesn't cook it and bring it though.
But it's funny. Like one of the last things I'll say before we wrap too is like the impact of black radio versus popular radio, because that was an impact for like of course these like the yacht rock artists like shined a lot, you know, like through that because they changed like radio. But then it's funny because watching they were so influenced by black music, and then they kind of changed popular music because of it, to the point where now black artists now have to mimic what they do, even though they're influential from black artists. Like
that's true.
That to me is of like, you know,
true.
this is so crazy. You know what I mean? Like George Benson and these guys had to like sound like these guys just to get on radio.
Yeah.
You know, and same thing. I remember those songs too, but I'm like, okay, those are just songs that we listened to, not realizing that was part of that influence. But it's like that whole chain reaction to that is nuts. You know what I mean? And it's like a battle that like all these artists fight. Like when people talk about, you know, like artists crossing over and stuff, and I'm like, you know, before you know you're younger, you're like, oh, they're selling out and stuff. And it's like in some aspects, I do get that too, right? But then as you get older and you understand the game a little more, you understand it, because it's all, at the end of the day, it comes down to money. You know what I mean? Like you want your talent and the money to kind of mirror each other. You don't want that reflection to be foggy. You know what I mean? Like you want it to mirror each other as best as you can. So when you're in a situation where it's like you're so talented, sorry, I was gonna say when you get to the point where you're so talented and your music is so incredible, but your budget is at a certain level, and you're looking at the other artists that are budgets are double yours, and you know you can run circles around their talent, and they know it, but they're getting double the budget you're getting. You know, it's like it's got to be it's a weird fight. Even though you're successful, it's like, you know, there's another level I can get to that is being blocked. I don't know why. And Luther had that fight. You know what I mean? For the longest while. I mean,
when you see the radio stations, there's like a couple hundred black stations, and there's like 5,000 stations that play pop music, like quote unquote contemporary pop music. It's like 5,000, and you got 100 or whatever. It's like a couple hundred. That's it. So you do the math. You have to cross over to make any money. Like you have to get something over here on these other stations to reach your market. Because like, how many people are actually listening to these one area? Like, look, we had a quote unquote urban station here in Toronto that got covered up by another station. We didn't even get two at the same time. One of them got covered up. And like, so these artists that they're trying to cross over, whatever, it's mathematics. They need to reach these stations that don't want to play their music. And so like, it's as simple as that. It's a game, man.
It comes down to money. It comes down to money. Like that's the thing. It's like the crossover appeal. It's like when you see certain artists crossover, you're just like, oh Lord. But then there's others where it's like you get it, because it's like you're talented and you want to reap the financial benefits. Like I said, the talent and the money, you want it to mirror each other. You don't want the reflection to be like something you got to use a Windex for.
Yeah,
you know,
100%. That's the factor.
Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah, basically,
Black Eyed Peas.
You know,
but then when will.i.am broke it down, I'm like, I get it.
I wasn't mad at it when it happened. I was like, and I thought about it. I'm like, no, I can't be mad at this. This guy's getting his music across all of these stations now, and all these people get to hear his music. I can't. As a kid, I used to be like, "Oh, this guy sold out. This is whack, whatever." But like growing up and I understand how business works, I'm like, I'm not mad at this at all. If you could do what you love and more people get to hear it, good for you. Honestly.
Yeah.
Now,
and
how
and
you do this?
will.i.am still got a chance to work with all those people too. So will.i.am still got to work with whoever you want to work with too. On top of that, in the black community.
Well, the question is, how do you cross over? Do you got to do a P. Diddy party?
That's it.
Or you know what I'm saying? Like you got
that's a whole different show.
Yeah, that's the whole other thing right there. How you do it is the question. If you can do it, that's great. Good for you. But how? How is the question?
I'll say this though. What those two documentaries showed us is what we already knew. And it reminded us that we are truly the heartbeat, man. Like we are truly the heartbeat. Without black music, without like a black energy put on to these things, like the world doesn't turn. and it's a shame that we gotta like cross over, because the world needs us, but yet for us to make money, we have to kind of put aside what makes the world function. You know, and I always find that sucks. It's like you got to lose a little bit of that thing, that energy that the world needs, which is us, and it's that vibration, it's black music, it's that deepness, and we gotta, and shit, that's a good way of putting it, because you got to lose the deepness, and in order to make the money and to get on the executive side and good with the executives, you got to leave that foundation sitting there, the deepness, lighten it up a little, music wise. Well, you could say otherwise too, but we just say music wise. So not but basically, I'll just say it's like you're putting aside what the world needs and what makes the world turn in order to meet your financial goal. But without what you started with organically, this world comes to a halt. Like, you know, and to me, again, that's what those documentaries showed us. We're the heartbeat. You're watching the Luther, and look at all the things Luther was responsible for making go great. And the reason why he was making it go great is because he was bringing something that the world needs that comes from us. So I think anytime you hear certain like music from back in the days and you hear the history on it, it always comes back to us. You know, does Elvis Presley exist if we don't exist? You know what I mean? It's like there's so much artists, they don't exist if we don't bring that thing. So that's something I also got reminded of in these two docs. Even when I was watching the Yacht Rock, I was like, yo, this is all us again. Without us, this Yacht Rock, or what we used to call smooth jazz, or no, not smooth jazz.
It's like smooth rock or
smooth rock.
Yeah.
Like what we used to call. There's a name for it though. I can't remember the name now. Easy rock.
Easy rock. Yeah.
What we used to call easy rock.
Yeah.
Easy rock does not exist without our heartbeat. And that's all, to me, that's all these documentaries are reminding us. Like, we're the source. If we could only get to a place where we don't have to conform in order to make money. You know what I mean?
The problem is we don't have creativity on our side anymore.
No,
we used to come to us for like, what's the new clothes to wear? How we're gonna listen to this? What are we gonna wear this? Like, used to come to us for that. We're not doing any of that anymore. We're not influencing the culture anymore. We're basically copying everybody else too. Like you think about like growing up.
But I think to a degree though, Keo. I think I don't know. I think to a degree, I still think we still set everything up though. So even though they're controlling the money and they're controlling the advertising budget, I still think there's something about our sway and the way we move from music to style to sports. I think it still comes back to us. People love Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. Why? He plays black. Think about it.
Yeah.
So even though they control the marketing side and the budget, the monetary side, we still control the way things operate. It's just a lot of us don't really realize it. You know what I mean? And I guess the question comes down to, where do we take it from here? You know, like how do we? Because to me, what Calvin asked earlier, could we go back to that place where, you know, like the music's about love and the music's a certain place? I think it comes down to, where do we take it from here that we can get back to that foundation, that thing, that vibration? You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's my kids, my grandchildren. But this generation right now, I don't know.
This generation's washed, my friend. You got to move on. It's gonna be the generation after that. We're done here.
Everything goes in a 360.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for it.
Somebody creative is gonna pop up and take over, but like right now, it's awful, man. It's bad, and we gotta wait.
I can't argue that. That is.
Yeah.
So you know what? I'll end the pod with this, and we're probably gonna have to do another pod probably soon on this topic, because you know we've been running for a while now, and I mean I love what the conversation we're having once again. But I gotta mention this because obviously, you know, in the world today, we're seeing this whole thing with TikTok and the ban of TikTok and everybody going crazy, and especially creators. And I get the hoopla around it, because there's people who are basically their lives are being impacted because this is what's feeding them. This is their industries being run by the moves they're making off of TikTok and their content and all that stuff, right? And it made me think about this because I think they got like a 75-day ban or 90-day extension, before it gets banned. So I'm sure they're gonna work something out or whatever, right? Because there's too many people that's gonna lose jobs basically from, I think what they say, like
it's
100,000, 200,000 jobs or something like that. Like people,
I think
there's no way they're gonna let that just rock, like
Yeah, no, I think Microsoft was gonna buy it. That's their word on the street is right now. They're setting it up so Microsoft can buy it.
Or like the arm of it or something.
Yeah.
Right. So okay. So with that said, right, and we've had these conversations. I'm sure between the three of us, I'm sure within other people, of course, that we all speak with. When are we? And to your point that Chris is making too about where the heartbeat and the spirit of that, when are we as a people going to recognize our power? You know what I mean? I know I'm wearing the sweater right now, but the reason why I'm saying it is because because like I said, we're seeing this whole thing with Trump and all that. We're the ones that set the trends, not in music, but just in everything. Let's face it, we're the ones that make these social media apps get to where they get to. The spirit starts with us normally, right? Especially when we think of from Black Twitter to all the content creators and dancers and stuff and creating dances on TikTok and the like. Like, why? And the reason why I'm asking this is like, why can't we support or get like a Black app that we can keep this power in house? Like, are we afraid? Why are we afraid to give that power to a Black developer? Like, are we afraid to make one of us wealthy to that degree? And I know, like I said again, I know this is going to be a whole other topic of the conversation. This is a whole other podcast. We probably have to do another podcast for this. There's a whole other podcast, but I just want to broach the subject just a little bit, just to wrap up, because I'm like, you're seeing it again, and I bring this up because I follow Isaac Hayes' son, Isaac Hayes Jr. on Instagram. Yeah, and he has his fan base, and I'm gonna set mine up by the time we record. I'm gonna have my account on there, so don't steal it. Not you guys, but don't steal whoever's watching. But but I'm saying this because I'm like, you're seeing him all the time pumping his app, and he's like, okay, why don't you guys come on here? You know what I mean? To like to keep this in house, like there's crowd sharing. There's maybe we can make this public. You know what I mean? Like, why are we afraid to make him rich, to make him wealthy, as opposed to like governments and corporations fighting over an app and people are crying over it and stuff? Where why don't we keep the money in? Why don't we keep the money in the house? Like Wu-Tang, the money's all up in the family. Why?
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, in just my opinion, I think one of the first things we got to get through or over, it's almost like we need therapy for it. I think subconsciously, a lot of our people believe we can't go down that road to success alone. I think subconsciously, a lot of people feel that they have to grab somebody else, like other races, and pull them in with us. I think a lot of people's minds need therapy to the point where you're talking generations and generations of being pounded that you cannot be successful being Black. So to the point where I have some friends that'll tell me, like I have a friend of mine, it was sad to hear, but he was like, he gave up. He's like, yo, I was one of those pro-Black people. I gave up. He's like, I don't think he basically is like, we all have to commit and what's the word I'm looking for? Back in the 70s, with Martin Luther King, when he was trying to merge with the white people. Huh?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Segregation.
Yeah. We're terrified. We're so terrified of being alone that of trying to get to a successful place alone. I think we all feel like we have to integrate.
Well, that's the thing. So
anytime we get the chance, we feel like we have to integrate, and it's still in us to this day. Yeah. So Calvin, I would say that's one of the first things we got to get rid of, in that subconscious feeling that we can't get to a high place. Not everybody, but there's a lot of people out there subconsciously that feel like we can't get to a high place if there's not other races controlling the steering wheel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a factor because culturally, a lot of people don't think that it's right. It doesn't feel right to them or something like that, or just mentally they don't want to lose control or give you control. They feel comfortable somebody else has control. I used to think about this all the time when you have, before integration in society, there was all these black businesses. We had black baseball teams. We had a bunch of stuff. And these guys were becoming millionaires from this thing. And the second integration happened, everything went out of business.
Yep.
And they're like, we're just going to get our stuff over here from all these other people. And you had this tight-knit group of people all buying each other because they had no choice. And I think that's the problem more than anything else, is that there's a choice in the matter. And because they have options, they can't do it mentally. Like there's some kind of roadblock there mentally. But if you think about it, if segregation was going on and everybody was making these guys millionaires across the board back then in 1900s, there's black millionaires because there's no other choice to put your money. You had to put it over here because these guys didn't want you. And now that you're okay to go over here, you're like, I will never work with black people again for some reason. And that's the mentality a lot of people have. And I don't know why. I don't have an answer for why. That's the thing. But I just know
Keo, and I'm not saying, of course, I'm not, low hanging fruit. I'm not sitting there and saying like we can, like, to keep it in house where nobody or no other culture can mess with this app.
Yeah.
Like, come to the app, but why can't it be like Isaac Hayes Jr. or somebody that's now becoming a $3.2 billion person because we made this app go crazy and it's a black person that did it? Like, why do we have to? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I know what you guys understand what I'm saying, but I'm like,
when
I looked at the whole TikTok controversy, it made me think of all that stuff because I'm just like, why? Like, and I'm watching black content creators on TikTok crying and stuff, and I get it, I totally get it. My heart's with them, but I'm just like, why don't we take that now or build up something where it's us? You know what I mean? Like the whole thing with COVID during the whole, social justice thing was like that spirit was kind of in effect. And it's like, once COVID left, it's gone again. We're back to where
I don't think that was real, man. I'll be honest. I think manufactured. I don't think it was real. It had no staying power. Yeah. The second there was like, okay, everything's back to normal. That thing just disappeared overnight. If that was real, people would still have that energy a bunch of years later. It all went like it disappeared overnight. And it's the same issue. Yeah. Like you remember when Russell Simmons was trying to do that credit card thing and everybody was clowning him? That's why we can't do it. That's the reason. He's literally trying to help you, and there was making
the rush card.
The
rush card.
It don't matter what it's called. All that stuff's irrelevant, but it was a fact of he was trying to do something to help you, and people mocked him for it.
But that's what I've always been a firm believer that, the masses don't cause change. It's always a small group of people, and that small group of people, they're relentless, they're unbreakable, and those are the people that will shake the tree. If this thing is to be fixed, it's not going to be fixed by the masses. It'll be fixed by a small group of people that will just keep, like, you can't break them. And they may not make the money that can buy you 10 mansions, but they might be okay with being able to buy one mansion or a nice house. But those people, that small group is going to be who's going to be able to turn this around. I think the masses, anything black, I just don't see the masses, the black population jumping on board, because I just think they've been conditioned to just believe that we can't do it without another race in the room with us. You know what I mean? And not to say that we want to do it alone and we can't share our gift with other people. But when I say in the room, I mean in the executive room. We can't picture ourselves as CEOs and whatnot without somebody in there can't look like us. And if they look like us, we start to.
He's like getting nervous. Like, oh no, I don't know if I can do this. Like, it's mental.
So that would be my answer to that question. Change is possible, but it's going to be by a small group. It's not going to be by. It's going to be a slow pace by a small group. And I hope they come around.
Yeah.
I hope they come around like soon, or at least by the time my grandchildren can see it.
I mean, this is the best time
like
to ever do it.
I would just love to see it one day. Yeah,
yeah,
I agree, and I know, like I said, it's its own podcast because I know there's stories with like stuff. like black tech, black tech and stuff, and they're they feel the crunch of certain issues and stuff. So I know it's its own separate thing. But like I said, it's just something to think about because it made me think of that watching this whole TikTok man, and I'm just like, man, like why can't we pour that into us? Because we're like what it makes me think of it like. It was, and I can't remember the people's names, but there was that one TikTok creator. She created a dance. It was like right before the pandemic. She created some dance. I don't follow the dancers and all the creators of the TikTok, but like she created some dance. It went super viral, and then like this white girl took like basically did the same dance, and she went super viral. She took the same dance, went super viral. She was on the late night dancing show for the All-Star Weekend. Yeah, she was dancing on like All-Star Weekend, all these talk shows, and it was like, holy cow! It took black music artists to be like, no, hold on. It was this one that was actually creating this and put her in videos and made sure she got her shine. But it was crazy because she her whole dance got hijacked, and this girl went on to do like big sponsorships and. Like I said, she was dancing in front of the All-Star game like weeks after, and you're just like, what the hell is going on? But to the point, like we drive the content. I think there was a point too where there was like a blackout with TikTok for a while, where it wasn't where I think black creators kind of like took a little hiatus from it, and they said like, yo, it hurt the content for a bit. Yeah, you know what I mean, it hurt the content for me because the ones that were now creating it was whack, and then when we came back on, it went back up. You know what I mean? So that I mean something to think about because I'm always like, this band made me think of that. That's all. Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, but man. But fellas, thank you, man, for doing this, man. Like I said, this is another one in the books. Yeah, another one in the books, man. Great conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you for bringing. I love these stuff. When we have these talks, I'm like, this is gonna be good. I just know it. I could feel it.
Yeah, we got to shorten the gap. I know the last of the three of us in together was a while back.
It was a bunch of years ago.
But yeah, it was a while back. Was it last year? No, actually, no.
I don't think it was
the last one we did together was the speaker box. It was a speaker box. I think that was.
I think it was.
So like actually, no, it was over a year ago. It was like over a year ago. Yeah, that's crazy.
At least a year ago.
Shorten the gap.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to shorten the gap.